Welcome to Honest Grow, unfiltered conversations for business growth. I am Cheale, and these are my cohorts,
Monique
and Sara.
Today we are tackling our toxic digital world. The levels of toxicity have been different, but recently I definitely have been, I need to go more analog. That is what we are touching on today. Starting that conversation, I just wanted to interject some of the things that inspired me to actually take action on this. One was a conversation I had in a coaching call where she was going analog connected from her phone to an analog phone in her home, not needing a landline, just connects right from her mobile device to an analog phone. And I'm like, genius. So I did that because I know that there are just a few people in my life that if I move my phone away from me, it could be problematic. When you have aging parents and all. The second one was that my daughter, who's in her early 20s, showed me an amazing thing that apparently is a trend in the Gen Z world to dumb your phone. And so what that means is that you create all your icons to be the same color and you kind of dull it out. Now, the meaning of dumbing your phone are other things under that. That's just the thing that she was pointing to that may assist me too in just finding my phone less stimulating, right? With that said, I feel like I gave some nuggets, some biscotti to our brew here. What are you ladies feeling about the digital versus analog experience?
I would love to chime in because I always make up this excuse of getting up and doing my laundry. I realized over time that one of the reasons why that is helpful for me throughout the day is to get away from all the bings and pings and notifications and things that are really distracting. Yes, it's an excuse to get some laundry folded, but it's also making me like physically get up away from my computer. And when I come back, I am so much more focused on what I'm doing for that day. I realize not everyone is like that, but for me, that's been like a technique or a method that has really worked for me. And I'm not talking about getting up in the middle of a meeting and being distracted, but when I'm sitting for a few hours, you can actually get in a cycle, especially as a designer, where you're becoming unproductive or you can't see what you're doing anymore. And getting away and coming back gives you like a new kind of clean slate. So I just think that getting away from all electronics devices, notifications for a few minutes throughout the day is really helpful for me.
I feel a lot of us as business owners and as people are having that craving for more grounding activities, like stuff that disconnects us from always being on. Because even if you don't have a business, there's still like your phone's always on you. You're looking at it, you're scrolling. And for me, both and business and out, business wise, I started thinking about like, what did I do in college? Like, I didn't have AI in college. Like, yes, I had my laptop. So for me, it's like getting back to writing out my to-do lists, having a planner. And if you're like me, where you're more analytical, type A, operations, that type of mind, doing marketing can be difficult for me because for me, marketing, that's your creative juices. That's your like, how do I want to be of service to someone and being able to pour and just create. For me, in college, I had no problem doing that. Like, you need me to write an essay? Girl, done. For business, I realized who's giving me the topic, who's brainstorming, who's being like, can you do this for me? And that was something I really started thinking about this year. And it's me setting aside time to brain dump. It's me not giving my creative juices away to AI anymore. It's me writing my own stuff out, even if it's messy, even if it doesn't make sense, getting it out because I know that is going to be more authentic to me. It's going to be more magnetic. I'm going to stand out because I'm not going to sound like everyone else because it's coming from me, not from a software or even someone else. And I liked how Monique angled this conversation around taking breaks that is not on a screen. So for me, I love books, guys. Like, if you want to talk about books, DM me because I will talk about it all day.
I love books too. I got you.
Yeah. Books I love them so much. So for me, being able to hold a book, it gives me a chance to fully disconnect, to let my mind wander, to have it be like imagination, like when we're kids. And it's like, how can we cultivate that in this day and age? Because yes, running a business, you do have to be some type of crazy to be a business owner. And also, like, things are just heavy right now collectively. So it's like, what are things you can do to still move forward, but also protect your peace?
And I think the direction that both of you took really has me wanting to go to a place of what does digital only approach kind of causes for our lives? Because our brain is like a hard drive that never defragmented, constantly running, but never actually processing when we are just completely in the digital sense. There's so much information, so much stimulation all the time. You actually are not giving your brain that reboot. I love I'm talking about digital and digital brains have now become a computer. But also digital promises this efficiency, but what it ends up causing is a decision fatigue because since
Yeah.
we can process and receive more, and I love that you brought AI because now it's like, oh, now we can process even more. Da, 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 da.
Yep.
And then we end up in a decision fatigue because we're basically expecting our brains to work like AI and just keep kicking out, keep kicking out, keep kicking out. We are meant to have rest. We were made to have rest. And then the always on
Yeah.
myth. So we always have a phone on us. We always are connected. And this is where I wanted to bring in was being a Gen Xer. Me and Monique are both Gen Xers, and I watched some videos recently on what was the experience of growing up as a Gen Xer and the things that we dealt with in our lives or could experience in our lives that made us just be a different type of generation. Like what makes our generation like unique? Every generation has their uniqueness. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying the generation I'm in is that kind of reflecting on that also connected me back to desiring those things and also understanding why I haven't let go of some things. So reading books is one of the things. I have not let go buying books. I like books. I want books. But there's also certain things I will just not let go of. And but it was because that was what I was raised with. And it's kind of funny because we all look at the older generation like, oh, they just won't let that go. But the fact is that's a good thing. That's actually a good thing because that keeps you grounded in your upbringing, in your childhood, in the things that helped create you. So I definitely feel no matter what generation you're at, there is a moment that you can connect yourself back to that has nothing to do with digital. Because even my 22-year-old daughter can remember, she kind of laughed at herself because she can remember having a leapfrog with cartridges. And the leapfrogs now for kids don't have cartridges, and she's like, "Oh, way back when I was young, we had cartridges." We all have that. And so I think when we're trying to just understand where to go, in this kind of disconnecting, yes, take breaks, definitely. There's also inspiration in your past
Yeah.
helps you connect to something that had nothing to do with the digital world and was completely just an analog existence. The other thing that I'm going to point to while I'm watching Sara rubbing her hands because she is so ready to jump in is I mentioned the Gen Zs dumbing their phones. The other thing they're doing is buying old flip phones. And I got to tell you, I miss my flip phone. All right, Sara.
Oh my, that is so funny. That brings me back to when I had the Razor. That phone was like
My
all the
razor.
rage.
I had that too. Yep.
That is so
That was
funny.
pink. What was your colors?
Oh my, I think I
I
had
think mine was
red.
like metallic black or something. I don't
Ooh.
know.
So
Nothing fancy.
Oh, girl. As Shell's talking, Monique's talking, it makes me think because I'm a millennial and it had me thinking back to like, what did I used to do for fun? Or like, how would I navigate certain challenges? Because I do feel for me, elementary school, middle school, I had typing class. It was like notebooks, high school. I feel like that's when I had a phone because I would walk to school, had my laptop, and then college, it was just all my laptop, all my phone. And it makes me want to get back to getting notebooks and stuff and being in my own energy because even though I'm about efficiency, I feel the things with AI or even how like softwares are changing with automations, I feel like it's making us dumber, not more efficient. Like it's
Mhm.
making me less like I'm not using my brain as much, which is scary. And I feel like I've kind of fallen into the trap where I'm like, how do I do this? I used to do it before. It's like I lost that skill. And I feel like it's going back to like my roots a bit of like, all right, let's try this back on again. Let's see how it works. If it doesn't, I just try something else on. And especially like if you struggle with creativity, like brainstorming or creating content, it is really detaching of what you're consuming on social media, what you're taking in from people, even if they have the best intentions. I would encourage you to be in your own energy. Just see what comes to you. Yes, you can look back at old sales calls, for example, because that's a great place to start. That's where I'm starting. But I just feel, especially, number one, I'm not meaning to project because clearly this is hitting home for me, but it having that pockets of time to just be unavailable, just be in your own energy, do what you want to do. And I feel life will become a lot easier for you.
Mhm.
Well, I gotta jump in here too because even though I was not rubbing my hands together, I was also bursting at the seams. And for me, of course, there's a nostalgia with thinking about your childhood and what did you used to do, and for me, always comes up a sense of adventure. And it could be in reading a book that will take you on a fantastic adventure. It could be going on a bike ride or a hike or something outside. And so I think that whatever it is that really takes your mind on an adventure, whether it be the book or a hike, do those things. Maybe it's sketching and doodling. I know
Mhm.
that's like a really powerful thing to do. It's almost like being in a stream of consciousness where you're not even trying to like make a decision about something, but you're just literally letting your mind take you wherever it wants to go. And that there's something very freeing about that. And for me personally, when I am able to get in that mode, that's when inspiration comes to me. I'm sure Shell can attest to that as well. It's just letting your mind be and in its true form. That's when you see something that sparks an interest and then it takes you down this other path. And then by the end of the day, you ended up coming up with something completely different than what you thought you would come up with. And when you're on your computer, and this is, again, this is very much from a design perspective, it's really easy to be like, I'm looking for inspiration. So let me go to Dribble or one of these other platforms where other designers exist, right? And see what does everyone else do. But you're cheating yourself a little bit in doing that because you're not allowing your brain to come up with its own ideas. You're just being affected by what someone else has done.
Mhm.
So I think it was Milton Glaser that was pointing to the fact that a lot of designers in this sort of more modern time needs to just go back to pen and pencil. And when you're brainstorming, whether it's writing note, a journaling or doodling or sketching, that is the number one way that I start out every project. Get away from I have ideas in my mind. And then I just literally I bought a pack of 10 plain white, no lines on it, notepads. And I just crank through those and doodle. And that's when the real inspiration happens for me. So I think to me, the word adventure is like a big piece of the pie.
What you just put down on the table, this is a great place to kind of discuss or give some points to what can analog actually do for your business specifically, like going to some analog practices, which you guys have already pointed to. But the physical planning, note taking, thinking with your hands, pen to paper, it slows us down enough to actually think. So we are getting away from impulsivity. There also is scientific evidence that when we go pen to paper versus typing it out, we actually retain it in our brain. Our brain actually engages with it more than in a digital sense. Analog meetings, they force real-time problem solving. Now, I say that with a grain of salt because I think we all work with people all over. So analog meetings aren't always possible, but I do have to say the people that I can connect with in person, even if it's like a networking, there really is a difference of nuance and intimacy that you can create with someone. And I really miss the days when I saw most of my clients in person. It was really awesome. But I also would not trade my clients that I probably will never meet in person. We are only in Zoom. Wouldn't trade them for $1 million. Like they're amazing. And then the last is how your office space work flow is to consider that not making the computer and all the digital stuff the main focus. And that one thing I'm actually doing is I am purchasing a work table, doesn't have computer or anything on it, because I am wanting to get back to now, like Monique, I do sketch ideas for clients and stuff like that. I actually want to get back to creating an actual design and logo all in finished form, completely not with a computer. And not saying I'm necessarily going to do that for a client, but just as a graphic artist, I just want to get connected back to because we were not allowed to touch a computer until we knew how to do all that stuff. And when I went to design school, and I
Yeah.
know design school nowadays, they don't know how to do any of that stuff. I want to connect back to that. And even if it's not in a professional sense, what that will do for me when I go to a computer is it also just changes that perspective on how I'm looking at the computer as a tool. And that's it. No different than paint, whatever. So I wanted to put that out there. I would love to hear from you ladies what you see as kind of the benefits, but also ways in just business wise that would function for you.
So for me, some things I've done to help me disconnect from my phone or social media, for example, is there's an app called Opal where it'll literally block you from going into the app.
Oh,
So I'll have that on my social media apps. I'll even have it on my email because I can be a chronic email checker. And that's just a waste of time. Like, I do want to have more discipline around, I just check my email twice a day because that will just help me not be all over the place. Because if I find I'm like doing one thing, then I jump to the next, and I jump to the next, I'm not grounded, which then creates this energy of being frantic, which then can turn into anxiety when it's more of like, I just check my email once in the morning, once in the evening. I'm unavailable on the weekends, can help just be grounded throughout your activities. And I'd also say, too, in business, what I started doing this year is putting in when I take a lunch and when I have a workout. Because then
mm,
those are times I know that I can be away from a screen. I can then go for a walk in that period. I know that I'm going to serve myself. I don't have to worry about, am I going to skip lunch today because someone booked during my lunchtime kind of thing. So it's like protecting your schedule, protecting the notifications you get. Like, I have a Apple phone and you can make do not disturb schedules. So I have a work one where my family and certain friends can notify me and like message me, but everyone else, it'll just block until after 5. So that also helps me not be distracted because I feel that's like the worst thing is when your phone like starts lighting up. I can just imagine from a design perspective, like it completely turns your brain off from creativity to then being more analytical.
I love that so much, and I need that app as well. Because we all have our own little sort of addictions. I hate using that
Mhm.
word, but it's literally what it is. I personally am addicted to my email, and it does what you just articulated is exactly what happens to me. I spiral. And so I have been trying, like, I remember this one time, God, this was years ago, but it was such an aha moment that my Outlook or something, whatever my email platform crashed and it closed down and I forgot to open it back up again. And the whole day I was like super focused and just working away. And I realized, wow, it's been like 5 hours or so and I haven't like gone into my email at all. And then I realized that the reason why I hadn't gone in there is because I wasn't getting all the notifications like, oh, this person just emailed you this and whatever.
Mhm.
And it was wonderful. And it just made me realize how distracting that can really be. I think putting, like, knowing that about yourself and putting parameters in place and having more of a balance of, throughout your day, working in time where you know you're going to be away from any device, and having just like time slotted for device time and slotted not for device time, I think is really important. For example, and I realize this is not totally in the work day, but at night when I just want to veg out and watch TV or whatever I'm going to do for the evening, I turn my phone over and put it not even anywhere near me, and it's just on another table. It's away from me. If someone is texting me or whatever it is, I don't even know that it's happening. And then I'll just like peek, later in the night. So I think just even physically removing yourself from some of these items is, it sounds like such a small thing, but like putting your phone away from you it's like a joy.
It
That's
is.
that's why I like the device of having the analog phone, and if your mobile phone rings, then you're able to disconnect
Exactly.
your physical phone being near you. Those are great points, ladies. I think what I'm hearing is not only useful directions for our listeners, but even for ourselves. And what I want to point to, though, is that we aren't suggesting you just jump out of the digital world, go get a house in the middle of nowhere, and make your own energy. We are talking about an integrated approach. So, not ditching the digital, but adding friction where you need it. And at the end of the day, our world is heavy. I think Sara was the one that pointed to that. Everything is very heavy right now. And so, where we can get peace, disconnection, also increase creativity, increase productivity, because all of these things will psychologically just support us better in that place. I also want to put out there as a way to integrate better, because this may be like, oh, I'm so in the mode of just digital or so much digital. Time blocking those spaces, time blocking with paper planners, maybe. Just saying. Not saying you're going to completely get rid of your digital, but you know what? A paper planner additionally might be supportive to also connecting you to that analog existence, adding in. I literally am wanting to do more fine art and clay sculpting and things like that, like doing work, making with our hands, even a coloring book. If you're not a creative, get the coloring book out. And then as far as the last one of integration, and I say this with so much facetiousness, client communications. And the reason I say this with such facetiousness is because I have a real time just calling someone on the phone. When my clients say that, can you just give me a call? I'm just like, I don't know why it puts me in this mode. But like my mom, my sister, my daughter, like I can talk to them on the phone, but I get a real weirdness about it. I am trying to do that because then it's not us in Zoom, it's just us on the phone. And I also think what that alleviates too is having to be prepped for Zoom. There's that part of it, but then there's also part of it of you're only connecting them through an audio way. And that is analog too. And if you go and get one of those analog phones, you can call them on that phone instead. So, with all that said, I think that we are just embarking in 2026 with some really beautiful integration to things that ground us the most. Because when the world is so crazy, girl, guy, whoever is listening, we need some grounding actions. And with that said, last sips.
For me, and I hope for you guys, when we say analog, it's more of how to protect your peace, how to feel grounded in any situation, to have resilience. And in business, that can look like getting a normal planner, planning your weeks, your days, and then putting it in your calendar, especially if you have a team that needs to see it. It is brain dumping on paper, writing your posts on paper, and then typing it out. Yes, it may not seem efficient. However, to me, that is coming from you. AI is not touching it. No one else is touching it. It's coming from you. There's a time and a place for those things, and we need to make more space to do things we used to do when we were kids. And it can be protecting you from apps. It can be anything like that. But at the end of the day, all of us try something on. If it doesn't work, take it off, try something new. there is no right or wrong. It's just about what do you need in this season to feel the most supportive, because that's what's going to help you show up in your business day in and day out.
And loving that as always. I just want to add to that when we are able to go to that place, we truly are getting back in touch with who we really are. Like
Mhm.
Monique was talking about, as a designer, comparing yourself to other designers, like what they're doing, and it's inserting things into you. No matter what you do for a living, it is so important for us to stay connected to us, ourselves, our values, because what ultimately all that noise and digital can create is us to be the people that at the end of the day, we don't even want to look at it in the mirror. And with that
Mm.
said, thank you for joining us and have a great day.